Paul Wilson.
And I'm Chris Emke.
And this is Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, we got one of our favorite returning guests today, Mr. 3000 himself, Chris Patterson. Chris, how the hell are you?
Man, we're doing good down here in Texas. How about y'all?
You know,
and the weather is perfect. UCC is around the corner. Work is busy.
You said weather's perfect here. Chris, what's the temperature down in Texas right now?
79 degrees, about 30% humidity. It's not bad at all. We're in that brief moment before it just turns like the oven all the way up. So it'll be 105, 110 before too long.
So
Gross,
it's some good motivating weather just to be in the shop, cranking away, getting the truck ready for the next couple weeks, right?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of that going
on. Chris, speaking of your truck, we've had you on the show. Chris Patterson's been on the show a lot of times. I don't know, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I met you back at Diesel Power Challenge when you were the alternate's alternate and stayed there for the whole week, which was super cool to see. Got to see him do his first sled pull there, things like that. Yeah. You got to go to King of the Streets and throw down. I think that was the first 3,000,
right?
Right? Am I right on that?
You're correct.
So
that's right.
Put down 3,000 horsepower. Then, did you do UCC last year as well?
I sure did. Yep.
I
think we've done UCC 2 years now.
2 years now. Okay. That's what I was trying to put together. So Chris has been around the block. He's broken records. He's set records.
Broken parts.
Broken parts and hearts.
Oh,
you got it. Look at we're like getting into this thing.
We're here.
We're like 7 years into this show. Yeah. Chris and I are finally finding a rhythm.
Y'all are just speaking facts. That's all you're doing. Speaking the truth.
But just in case somebody's been living under a rock, they're brand new to the show, tell us a little bit about your truck.
Well, it's a 2007 Dodge Ram 3500 quad cab long bed dually. And I bought it for a smoking deal. It was a Laramie. I had heated seats, had the rear slider. It was great. Leather. It was great. And I, for whatever reason, decided to like really take one out of their misery and put down a good girl. But I sacrificed the lamb, and now we got this thing that it's evolved into, and it's just been a progress or a stepping stone of failure after failure after failure. And we keep picking up the pieces and making it better, and then it does whatever it does. Sometimes I have a control on it. Sometimes it does what it wants to do.
I think
it's just kind of moved.
I think one thing looking back, as different areas of the country and people that are experts or knowledge leaders when it comes to making power, all of the little hiccups and the things you've had to overcome, like you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Cummins platform, the 48RE transmission, and keeping everything together or have things work, especially in a truck the size of yours, right? It's not a regular cab. It's not a crew cab short bed. Like you literally have the biggest truck application possible, and then you're throwing a shit ton of power at it. You're going to the drag strip. You're doing all these crazy things along the way.
Oh, and take it out for date night and drive it on the street.
That's true. I remember seeing some posts about that. Absolutely. So I guess the question that I have for you, you've done UCC 2 times prior. You're coming back again this year. You've done King of the Street. What motivates you to keep wanting to come back?
Well, there's 2 things. There's never wanting to give up and finding a weak point and overcoming an obstacle, whether it's a mechanical thing that's in your way or it's a theory of operation that you're working on.
Okay.
And then all the hate, all the negativity, all the drama, all the BS. It's fuel. So you just go back there and keep working.
Do you see now? I remember, there was some drama around you. There's no arguing here. You were the first truck on a chassis dyno to make 3,000 horsepower. The naysayers, it wasn't the dyno, right? In this industry now, there is a dyno that is the make it or break it, and that is the end all be all. Is there still that negative vibe, and do you still see a lot of that drama around that years later, or what's some of the drama around you wanting to come back to UCC to prove them wrong?
There's definitely like a drama or stigmatism or a thing where you can walk up to a driver's meeting and people's attitudes change.
Okay.
And so that really sucks that you're always on an approach like an offense or a defense. it's like you're always in battle mode. So, you know,
Have
there's that.
have you tried smiling?
Oh, no, not really. No. I kind of just, I try to stick to myself. I
Paul
could try to smile. We'll see.
Paul tries going into a room where he's unliked and he smiles. It don't help him either. So we're good.
I usually try
Yeah.
to come into a room, especially a driver's meeting, and try to offend as many people as quickly as possible.
I'm gonna fuck you. I'm gonna fuck you.
No. More like, wow, I thought they were going to bring race trucks to this, and then just sit there quietly for the rest of the time and let them stew. But
That's
no,
awesome.
the Patterson, the drama. If we could just pull some of this out, because he's so modest.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get Patterson to really lay into this. You put up 3,000 horsepower at King of the Streets, but that's not the Northwest Dyno Circuit dyno, which is the dyno that's at UCC. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
I think y'all might want like, I mean, you might want like a storyline and a detail and the goods. Y'all are digging deep into the shovels here.
Well, we're just
Well,
trying to
that's
prep for when I ask who you calling out. There's a little bit of validity to it.
Well,
Yeah.
because it was a big deal. I mean, everybody was chasing 3,000 horsepower back then. I mean, God, since the first UC in Indiana, they've been talking about 3,000. Levon never made it.
Yep.
Okay, Levon never did 3,000 on a chassis. And then Ziegler's truck, we were talking about getting close. Derek Rose's truck, we were talking about getting close. But that first year out at UCC, I believe that they were both there. Got close, got into that high 2,000 range. But then the whole industry's blowing up talking about 3,000 horsepower. It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Patterson, we talked to you before King of the Streets, and I remember asking, why do you feel confident about this? And you're like, well, we did the math. I mean, in not so many words.
No.
Yeah, I'm definitely a man of few words. The biggest thing was we came at it from a different direction or a different angle. We didn't really go at it with how much or how long or the size of this or the size of that in reference to this. We hadn't broke parts yet, and we were using a lot. For example, whenever we did 3,000 horse at All Truck Challenge, there were over 12 nitrous hoses from the solenoids to all the pipes, because we thought you have to spread it all out, but it wasn't necessarily that we spread the nitrous out. It was the volume that we were using was unheard of. There were people walking around that property that weekend pulling their hair out if they had it. Like they saw the setup, because you can't hide the size of these solenoids and how you do things, and no one had ever sprayed it the way we sprayed it. It just took someone to kind of go up there that didn't really care and just hit the buttons and see what happened. That's what we did.
That is something that we have to give to Patterson
Some
here, which
credibility.
is you've been through some failures in this. When you were joking earlier about, like, you know, the old Thomas Edison adage, I found 2,700 ways not to make a light bulb. It's like, I think you're on that path of, like, you seem to have that mentality of, like, these failures aren't failures. They're just a step towards my goal. How many engines do you think you've gone through? How many blocks do you think you've blown up throughout owning this truck?
Probably about 10. And I think that's a really honest, accurate number, about 10, maybe 12. Not as many as what you might think, getting how far we've gotten.
That's still a fucking lot, my man. That's not a small number.
But okay.
It's not a bad. It's not talking about cigarettes here. Like, you know, it's 10 fucking engines.
Okay, I got two things on that. Number one, we've been racing the truck for 6 years, and you know, I'm a shop owner. I don't call myself an engine builder. I don't call myself a transmission builder. I'm a diesel shop owner. And then number two, crap. Oh, I got it now. Number two, how many blocks do you think some of these other engine builders have been through learning this much and getting this far?
No, I mean,
I think they all have. I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. I think.
So if you had to have a score, I think 10's a damn good score.
I think on Paul's end, I'm sitting here looking and just thinking
I would have
back.
quit after 2.
I mean-
after the second one blown, I would have been like, I'm done. Let's go get a dirt bike. I'm over this shit. I would have quit so fast. I would have never had the tenacity to stay with it.
I don't think this industry really highlights the failures. They only highlight the successes, and I think it's real, right? Like, for someone new to come into the sport and say, okay, I want to make 3,000 horsepower, or even 2,000 horsepower, even 1,500 horsepower, and they don't think things are going to break along the way, it's a facade. It's not real, right? So when we sit there and we talk about these things, you're giving out real world information. Hey, here's the real shit. Hey, this is what it's taken to get to this point. Here is the data. Here is the proof. Here is all the stepping stones to get to this point. And there's going to be some bumps in the road, even on a fresh build, to get to that point, right? But here's the stepping stones. Here's the foundation. So
that's right.
I feel like there needs to be more information shared around that, because, we get guys that call into the shop all the time. They want 700 or 800 horsepower.
1,000 horsepower daily driver.
1,000 horsepower daily driver.
How many times have we had a request for 1,000 horsepower daily driver?
And then
it's a joke.
And then you go to them and say, well, the transmission's going to have to be refreshed, once a year, once every other year, depending on, the type of miles that you put on it.
That $9,000 to $12,000 transmission, you're going to have to pay $1,600 to pop that out of the truck, ship it somewhere, then another $1,600 to refresh it. Then you got to put it back in every year.
But I just bought a 1,000 horsepower trans. I should just be able to put it in and it's good, right? I don't think that there's any parts that are suitable for 3,000 horsepower, except for, hey, this is the biggest, baddest shit we can do, and you say a couple Hail Marys and you hope for the best. So it's just, what does it take and what's that combo and how good's the tune up to make that possible?
The best thing I could say to that is, number one, the relationship with the builder of your truck. Who's building the truck? How deep your pockets? How often you want to be around? How are you going to learn to drive the truck? And number two, that much power has to take place over a very long period of time. Yeah, 3,000 horsepower. Yeah, you can smack it once and make 3K and you're good. If you might smack it again, it might blow up again. You don't know. Mm-hmm. But I've smacked mine several times now, and it lives during that. But the motor, like I pulled out last year's motor from, I think it was just after UCC. We did all truck challenge and we did race week and a few other little things with it. We pulled it out. It looked great. So good. I put it back in and went to testing this season. So
that's awesome.
You can make 1,000 horsepower and you can make 1,000 horsepower for a really long time, but you are going to have to refresh those transmissions and turbochargers and whatever the heck else is going to go out on it. But the more you make, the more often you're going to be around. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's been one of the things that's been really cool about following your progress with this truck for so long, which is we've seen you try a lot of new things. You referenced the way you guys set up the nitrous and how that delivered. What other sort of innovations have you had to kind of come up with to be able to stay in the game this long?
I would say friends and family and people that have helped you along the ways has been the biggest thing. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about your talent. It's about the people that you surround yourself with and their talents and what they can offer to the table. And then get along as a team. The whole situation has to be a very positive environment for everyone. And we have to join in the same goal as a group to reach the end of the road. People come and go all the time. Parts come and go all the time. Money comes and goes all the time. But we've done a whole lot with a very shockingly very little amount of things. Like I should probably do a shop tour or something. Like we should show y'all some stuff.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a huge team. I got like 5 employees in total, including myself and my wife. She runs the office. I got Ty and Jake as technicians in the shop, and I got Tony as a transmission builder. And we're all learning to build motors and trainings together. And it's going to be something that's going to be expandable. Like you can grow and you can evolve and make things bigger. It's scalable.
Well,
so I'm just trying to be in this thing for the long haul.
Well, that's an interesting point. We've talked about you owning Unrivaled Diesel here for a while. What is the future of Unrivaled Diesel? Are you going to keep doing competition? Is that your mainstay of marketing at this point?
No, not at all. I would love for this to be the last year that the green truck competes in an event. It'll still be around. It could still do things. But to campaign and to load up and go do these things and finance the whole entire operation and then destroy parts and then come back home and pick up the pieces and keep on, like, it's financially devastating. Like 300 plus a year just to run one truck at 3 events.
I mean, that's a mental clarity too there at that point, that goes back to you having a solid team and having a foundation and having people with certain strong points coming together to form, what's needed to support to do these things.
That's right.
You sit there and say,
So,
300,000 to a couple events like that, and that'll make a lot of people curl in a ball and just not want to see light. You know.
now, were you around last night? Because I swear that's just what happened. Oh, yeah. So as far as the future, I'll offer three things. I offer Dodge diesel repair. I offer remanufacturing of engine, transmission, transfer case, axle, and then I offer performance. So those are three complete different highways that you can take to get across America. Each one of those is its own revenue source, and each one has different rates and different profit and loss and different talents that are required. So it's a very niche market being diesel only. And then to add in all the other repairs, and I only do Dodge diesel, it's very interesting. So the performance side, I kind of want to get away from, and we all know why that's a thing, right? So we're going to go in the more remanufacturing side and the service for the local people side. Texas is a big state, so
Sure.
you can draw from hundreds of miles around, no problem with local service work. But if you can ship a motor or a transmission or a transfer case with a warranty that's all explained in black and white, I mean, things can really scale quickly.
I mean, you got to follow. A lot of companies get into this, right? Because there was an individual who liked diesel trucks. They wanted to be more performance oriented. And then they realize I could sell a goods and service to support my habit, right? And then it evolves into a
That's right.
business, and it evolves into employees. And then you get to a certain point where you want to continue to grow, but you realize that the performance end of the industry in an industry where you want to see growth is a very small window of what the bigger picture really is. So to your point, right, not so many words, Paul and I understand where the performance end of things are with everything going on with legalities and the EPA and being a business owner and, you know, what risks are involved. But there is such a bigger window of opportunity when you're doing transmission overhauls and transfer case overhauls and axle overhauls or engine overhauls. You're going to be able, you know, there's 10 people here that are looking for a performance turbocharger, but there's 100 people over here that are looking for a stock replacement or something that's just a hedge improved over stock. So we see
right.
it. We see it within our, you know, what we do in our business and things like that. There's no secret there.
Yeah. But this potentially being your last year, does your finish at UCC have an impact on whether or not this is your last year? Not like, can you run us through the last 2 years? Where did you place overall?
You ask a lot of questions at once. So
That's my
yeah,
specialty.
it is. You just bombarded me. What are we in 24? So 23, I believe I got fifth, I think, and then 22 I got third. It's quite unfortunate. I stepped on myself on the dyno 2 years in a row. The last 3 times I've spun the Superflow, I've stepped on myself.
What do you
So I
mean by
definitely
that?
have things didn't go according to plan, and nitrous didn't come on in Tennessee earlier this year at the Blake Fitzgerald Bash for Cash. So I got up there and went to do my thing, and the nitrous didn't even come on. It was all armed and all turned on, but it was a boost pressure switch malfunction. So it never saw the boost pressure and never turned on the kits. Then it made like 2,300 on fuel, which is nice, but it wasn't the number I needed to take the event, so I was upset. So that's a failure right there, because once you pop the straps and you roll off, you're done. You're not in the show. You can get back on later and give somebody a real show and do some carnage, but you're not in for the paycheck.
Yeah, and that,
Right.
I mean, no offense, but, you know, letting other people see the truck make power, that's great. That's an ego thing, but you just traveled cross country for a check, right? Like that's why you're there. That's why I would go there.
It's not viewed as like a check. It's just a prize. It's like, you know, you can go out there and get that if you want it. Well, how bad do you want it? Well, I want it pretty damn bad, so I'm going to go get that. And so that's what you try. And then you step on yourself and you trip and fall, and then the players run beside you, and then they got the score. You know, they got the ball. I don't know the ball sport lingo, but I know the
No, these are great sport analogies.
So is this
You're crushing it?
Is the theory here then, Chris, that the truck didn't perform the way it expected to in its 10-second window of fame? So if you unstrap and pull off the dyno and then go back on later and redo it and make it, it's not going to have the same impact as if you would have done it in the first place?
You're out of the prize.
Well, you're out of the prize, but still somebody's going to see it because no matter what, I can go to Walmart. Someone's like, "Hey, you got that truck?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a stupid truck. Don't do it." Yeah. So I mean, yeah, if we did get back on after that event, we did our 2 pulls. We realized, hey, that's it. That's all you got, bro. Okay, get off. We found our problem, and then we got back on 5 hours. We had to wait for Greg A for like 3 hours, which props to him. He made his horsepower and it looked great. It was all lit up real fancy, but I gave him a show. There were sparks and shit flying everywhere. The rear brakes went metal to metal. There were sparks out of the wastegate tube. Then I went too early, and Cody wasn't ready to hit the button. So I went too early, and he didn't record the first run. So I was like, well, let's idle about 30 seconds, and I'll pull it again. So we did a second pull, and it destroyed the overdrive planetary in the back of the train. It busted it to about a dozen pieces. Yeah, on the dyno. It was already in 4th gear, already rolling 80 miles an hour. And then it accelerated, and the first 2 kits came on, and life was good. And once the great big one turned on, it just busted the train, the overdrive, and it went to like 6,400 RPM.
Oh.
Yeah, I never spin my shit that high.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. I was like, oh, okay, we're going home. And then we shut it off and didn't have reverse. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So we pulled it off with a side-by-side. It was interesting.
Oh.
I was able to drive it on the trailer, though.
Okay.
That's a win.
Okay.
That's a win.
So, yeah, that was that dyno. And then 1 year, the first year at UCC on the dyno, we had an automatic file loaded in the ECM for a full manual valve body. So we only had, I think it was 73 cubic millimeters of fuel. And we did 6 pulls in 30 minutes. The lowest one was like 1,700, and the highest one was like 26 or something like that. And then that was really disappointing to come back to Texas and look at your data log and saw you had 73 cubic millimeters of fuel. That's a good one, right? And then last year at UCC, we did a tune change in the pit, and we didn't update from like the previous calibration or a known good calibration. We kind of had a fresh attempt. Somehow we had a problem with rail pressure, lack thereof. So the data log showed like 4,400 PSI of rail pressure at wide open throttle, and had 7 solenoids. So you can imagine how lean the motor went.
Oh, yeah.
Fried all those pistons out. Or no, that was the first year. That motor was the first year because of the cubic millimeters of fuel and the 7 kits. This year, I popped I think it was a turbocharger apart. See, all this crap runs together. You can't do this to me.
No. So now,
But I think these are some of the points, not to jump in on you too quick here, Upkey, but these are some of the points that we're talking about like you're going to go out and even with a lot of knowledge, even with a solid set of resources, even with an amazing team, you're still going to go out and you're going to run into these challenges live at shows, and you're going to have to figure shit out on the fly.
Yeah. Now,
You do.
Is there a checklist that you work off of? Like, let's get into strategy for this year, right? This is the 3rd year. You're coming to UCC. You're not coming to just fuck around and show face, right?
Nobody cares about second place.
You're coming to compete. So is there like a checklist and a breakdown of like, hey, these are the do's and don'ts, and I'm going to cover my ass from what I did years past? Or like, what are you doing different coming into this year?
This is like when you have to go over your ABCs and you got to break it down and make it real simple. And that's what we're doing. We're going with the known combinations and known parts with known tunes and pretty well known outputs. So it's not, if you focus all on one segment of the event, you might not win the whole thing. But if you do what you know is best in all 3 segments with all 3 setups, then the overall highest should win.
Agreed.
So we're kind of going back with what we know. We're not trying anything new. We don't want to try anything new. We found some upgrades. We made some enhancements. But if you could like tighten up on the scope, but magnify it and make it more crystal clear where you can really see the details, then you're going to have an overall better outcome, or a higher likelihood of a better outcome. And preparation, having parts like having a golf cart with an extra bottle or two and an extra -8 hose from like a 20-foot Dash 8 hose. You know how much pressure sits in that thing on the dyno when you got 4 Dash 8 hoses under your cab? Like, you might need a hose because you might blow one up. Logan just did that in Tennessee. So, and you might have an intercooler on your golf cart sitting there during the dyno. Or you might have an axle in the golf cart for sled pulling with all the tools to put an axle in, because I broke 2 chromoly axles during the pull and had to change them between heats. And, you can't drive back to your pit, or there's like preparation for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Or drag race. I've seen guys have a nail in their tire or lose a valve stem cord or valve stem cap or whatever in the staging lanes, and all their air goes out of their slick there in the lanes.
That's so scary.
Something stupid. Yeah, something. Yeah. It's always something stupid like that.
Yeah, that like wildly unexpected, totally random stuff that you have no control over. That's always the scariest part to me about automotive competition. Listen, God, we heard a kid put it really, really well back in the day, which was like, you're driving around on a ticking time bomb and you don't know when the timer was set. Like, you're juggling hand grenades at this thing. But that's your choice. Yeah. You know what you're doing when you pull up to that dyno. You know what the risks are. You have to mentally prepare yourself to take on those risks and still want the reward, right?
That's right. I mean, I say a prayer and kiss my wife goodbye every single time, and I'm getting really tired of doing it, to be honest with you. It sucks. This is real. People don't realize it. This is real. I've told them at events, hey, back the F up from the neck on the hitch to the ramp on the back of the trailer. Get out of the way. Yep. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And one guy at this last event, he was like, you don't trust it? I was like, I built this shit. Backed up myself. He's like, no faith. I was like, you want to come up here and do it? I don't see that happening. Like, people don't get it.
It's so, I mean, you're talking about 6,300 RPM. What are your wheels turning at that point? Like, what is a small pebble coming off your rock at that feel like? What's the mile per hour that's going to hit you at from 10 feet away? I know when I first started here at Duramax Tuner, like second week I was working here, Nick brought me over to the dyno. And I mean, we're not talking about a high horsepower car. We're talking, I'm old, so this is way back when like 800 horsepower was a big swinging dick. Like an 800 horsepower 5.9, and it started making this nasty noise underneath us, and the first thing he did was pick his knees up to his shoulders, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, what do you think's going to happen if that's the drive shaft? And I'm like, my feet have never come off a floor in a truck so goddamn fast. Like, you would have thought my prom date said, let's jump in back. Like, I was scared. But ever since then, I will say it's you got to have that respect of like shit can go wrong, and if it goes wrong, it's not going to be what you think it is.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for that at the shows? I mean, you're going to UCC. You got what do they say, 40, 50, 100,000 people watching you. They throw a number at me every year. I'm so sorry, Chris Cyril. I know you told me and I just forgot, but yeah, let's call it 100,000 people watching you. Does that change your level of nervousness going up to the dyno or going up to the drag strip?
Not necessarily. I'm used to having a lot of eyes, but there is that like 3 or 5 minutes before where you're just like, don't talk to me. Don't walk over to me. Just stand over there. Hopefully nobody sees you crying behind your sunglasses. And you're like, let's kiss her. Let's just walk over there and hug her. We don't know. That's the biggest thing, is just the physical. Like, we do a lot of stupid stuff. To answer some of your questions, the wheel speed maxes out on my truck on the sensor. The sensor quits reading after 179.9 miles an hour, and it just plateaus on the graph. So I start the run in like the 80 mile an hour range, and it goes so fast. Anybody that's ever known of like doing rolling burnouts, you can peg your 120 speedo like nothing in third gen, and it just sits there like real fast, easy. And that's how it does. It looks like the boost ramp. When the boost comes in, that's about how fast the speed. So it plateaus at 179 for, let's just say, a second. So it's going fast. Okay. And then another stupid thing was we were sled pulling an all truck one year. I think this was the year before last. So this must have been 22. And we broke the rear axle, and we destroyed the housing so bad that there was no salvage. It needed an entire axle assembly. So we took what was left of the rear drive shaft out of it, because naturally it broke the rear axle and the housing and the drive shaft.
Sure.
So we took out what was left of the drive shaft, and then we put a coffee cup over the transfer case. Now, all this credit needs to go to Nathan Williams. This crazy SOB talked me into this whole thing. So they put the dyno tires on the front axle, and then they put a coffee cup on the rear of the transfer case and put the truck in four-wheel drive so I could dyno the next day in front-wheel drive. And I was like, no, you done lost your damn mind, boy. Like, I don't know. There ain't no way sponsors are going for this. So I called some sponsors. And they said, send it. We got your back. I was like, okay, fine. So then I put an SFI blanket in the floorboard, and I put an SFI blanket around the front transfer, like the transfer case housing with all the straps and strapped it up. I put 100-pound sled pull weight in the floorboard, 100-pound sled pull weight on the side of the training tunnel, and 100-pound sled pull weight on the center console, and took both front doors off. And I was like, all right, let's go. And so there was a lot of talk, and I did 3 pulls. First pull was 2-in-1, fuel only, dead as it could be. And it was 1550. And it didn't turn the tires on the dyno. It didn't do anything stupid. It's like, all right, cool. Let's throw it on 2-in-3 and add a kit or 2. So we turned on a few more, got them all set. And then we ripped off, and it did 2,250 horse. And we're like, well, that will probably take first place. But no, let's show these MFers 3,000 horsepower front wheel drive. So I reached over and I hit CSP number 5, and I hit all the nitro switches. And when that sumbitch came on, it blew the back of that block out, and the fireball is 3 times the size of that truck. It was tremendous. I remember it like it popped, and it sounded like a shotgun, like right under the hood. Boom! And I felt the thermal heat wave. The first thing I felt was the infrared or the thermal heat. And then I felt the pressure wave, and I just closed my eyes and reached back and hit the lifeline fire suppression, and it shot all that foam out, and it had it out in less than a second. It was amazing. I was able to, pick up my feet, hold myself together, close my eyes. Once all the loud noises stopped going, opened up my eyes, looked, and it was just smoke. Popped out of the truck, popped the hood, and the turbos were spinning so fast, it was sucking in all the foamy fire suppression crap, and you could hear it going through the intercooler, through the pipes, through the head, and out the side of the block that it blew out. It was still moving air. I was dumbfounded.
Oh my God. That's
So I
cooking
know why
with
the
gas
motor
is what
blew
my
up.
dad would say. Holy shit.
So I'll say that I have never blown up. Or wait, hang on. I got to be careful here how I say it.
Hold on, I need
The
5
motors I've built for,
qualifiers.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. These motors have never blown up. I have blown them up. So the backstory, yeah, you got to think about that, right? I blew it up, and I did. I blew this one up. So we had a valve tulip after drag racing, had a brand new big badass head, and valve tulip. I didn't want to run it. I made the call, pull it. Josh McCormick loaned me a stock head with like some bowl work, like had the intake horn on the side of it, everything. So he goes, hey, I'll give you this so you can keep racing, because I didn't want to drop a valve and ruin my motor. So I swapped on, let's just say a stage 1 head. Let's just say that. And we did that at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we did dirt drag racing, and then we did sled pulling, and the dyno was on Sunday. And I forgot about the stock cylinder head when I turned that sun gun all the way up. I completely forgot about the stock cylinder head. So you can make 2,550 horsepower through a stock cylinder head with big turbos and a lot of nitrous and all the other goodies. But you cannot go much further than that without the blocks.
Yeah, for all you stock cylinder head 2,500 horsepower guys
That's
out
the
there.
limit. That we heard it here.
We finally found it. We finally found
And
it.
if you really wanted to talk about records and numbers and bragging rights, then it's like, well, what's the front wheel drive horsepower record? Does it count on that dyno? What was the stock intake shelf record? Is there such thing? Probably doesn't count on that one. So then after I guess all that crap, the Superflow finally had enough of me, bit me 2 years at UCC, and 1 year at Blake Fitzgerald's the Superflow bit me, so I better stop talking shit.
Yeah, you better make nice. You better pray to whatever dyno god is out there and make this shit happen. You're coming up to the
UCC.
biggest
I think
weekend.
it's the Superflow. Yeah, that's the Dyno God.
UCC, third year, so third time's a charm.
Third
Right.
time's charm, amen, brother. You're
That's
just
it.
spitting facts today.
That's what I do. So what are the goals? Where are we at? Where's your headspace at being we're a couple weeks out from this?
My headspace is that I got this, and I'm prepared to settle with whatever results may be, and the entire team is prepared to settle with whatever results may be. Well, I'm not campaigning this green truck anymore, so this is the last UCC that I will compete in. But we are the most prepared we have ever been. We have an A plan and a B plan for each segment, so we're looking really good. Like,
Okay.
I got a lot of really good parts. I got a really motivated team. I got a lot of good people standing behind me. I got sponsors coming on. We're in a really good position right now. The best I've ever been in.
That's so cool to hear.
So we feel good. Yeah, we feel really good.
Now, you said, new sponsors rolling in. Who would you like to give a thanks to, right? Like, who are the sponsors that are behind the build going into UCC this year?
I definitely got to say my favorite sponsor is my wife. She's kept me going. She's the sugar mama. So definitely shout out to her. And then Flux Diesel has been with me for like 7 or 8 years now. They've been with me since the stock injector came out of that truck and a 200% went in that truck. So big shout out to Don and April Morrison. They're amazing, not only with their products, but as people overall in general. And then I've raced with BD Diesel for quite a few years now, been on the race team. Shout out to BD for always getting my back. We got a truck that we're building with them right now that just did 1,949 horse in the Superflow, and that's my daily driver. So that's pretty cool. And then all the other guys that have always been there, like John Muldoon at Muldoon's Diesel, amazing, absolutely amazing valve bodies. Phil, we all know Phil Taylor, diesel performance converter, redneck, love him, builds a hella converter. I ship them, he fixes them, we put them in, we blow stuff up. I love them. They work great. That's what we sell in all of our 68s and 48s. Dan Valance at Valor Clutch. That's all the clutches we install and all the AC parts we buy, and I get a lot of transmission parts from him as well. He's a wild hellion. You should really call him sometime. Big sled puller, big redneck.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's so many more others. Zach Hamilton, like all these blocks. We've been down to Zach's a lot talking about blocks, and I've helped with a few of these things going on with his department. There's love everywhere. Matt Sancher and that big fat shaft Matt's got. Dude, that's the shaft. And there's so many more. I'm probably forgetting somebody and upsetting somebody, but there's a whole lot of people that come into play with this type of thing, because it's not just that you're a diesel shop owner. It's that you're a diesel shop owner that competes at the top tier of motorsports. And that is not something that you get to clock out for. This is a lifestyle. This is not a job. This is not a career. This is a lifestyle. And it's extremely excruciating. And there's a lot of people that's helped me, and there's a lot of people that's hurt me. But either way, they've all got me where I'm at.
That's awesome. I don't think we could say it any better. Chris Patterson, folks, thank you so much for joining us today, Chris.
Appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all in a few weeks, and I'll have some of that 1800 tequila for you.
You said it.
There we
I'll
go.
be there. All right, listeners, thanks for sticking around. We got more UCC interviews coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to hear from as many competitors as we can. Patterson, before you get off the phone here, who's the number one person that you're looking to take out at UCC? Who do you have to beat?
I haven't even really given that a thought.
Goddamn
Myself.
lies.
That's
I knew
it.
he
There
wouldn't
we
say
go.
anything. Goddamn
Myself.
lies.
Myself.
All right,
I'm gonna
man.
get the me. I'm gonna get the me on the glass for you.
Listen
The
to him.
big cougar
It's
on
so professional. All right. Unrivaled Diesel, Chris Patterson. Go give him a follow. Check him out. You're going to see that just another Cummins out at UCC this year. We're all looking forward to it.
That's right. I appreciate everything that everybody's ever done, all the follows, all the supports, all the comments. I love y'all. Keep it coming. See y'all in a few weeks.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon. After the second one blown, I would have been like, I'm done. Let's go get a dirt bike. I'm over this shit. I would have quit.